Ready to dive into a theory that might just flip your understanding of ancient history on its head.
Ooh, I love a good mind bender. Hit me with it.
Today, we're going deep on this question.
Hmm.
What if all those incredible ancient tombs, the ones that just blow your mind with their scale and
So they're
complexity?
like the pyramids, those massive structures.
Exactly. What if those weren't just, final resting places?
Okay, I'm intrigued. What else could they be?
Well, that's where things get really wild. We're looking at excerpts from the History Channel's Ancient Aliens series.
Ah, Ancient Aliens, the show that launched 1,000 memes. I'm familiar.
Yeah, and while, some people might find it a little out there.
A little. Try a lot. But hey, I'm open-minded. Let's hear what they have to say.
Exactly. It's all about exploring different perspectives, right? And their theory is that these tombs were built with a connection to, get this, the stars, to spiritual energy, to other realms.
Whoa, hold on. Are we talking about like tombs as spaceships or something?
Aha. Well, not exactly spaceships, but the source material suggests that maybe, just maybe, these tombs were like blueprints for some kind of cosmic journey.
A cosmic journey. Okay, now you've got my attention. Let's unpack this. Where do we even begin?
Let's start in Egypt, specifically at the Saqqara site, home to the Pyramid of King Teti. Now, inside this pyramid are what are considered the oldest religious writings ever discovered, the pyramid texts.
I've heard of those. They're full of all sorts of cryptic symbols and rituals, right?
Right, and what's interesting is that they're not just about, burial rituals and whatnot. They're actually filled with references to stars, constellations, and get this, the pharaoh's ascension to the heavens after death.
Interesting. So we're talking about more than just burying a king here. These texts seem to suggest some kind of cosmic connection and understanding of the universe that goes beyond what we typically think about when it comes to ancient cultures.
Precisely. And that's where the ancient astronaut theory jumps in,
Yeah.
suggesting that these texts might be more than just, spiritual metaphors.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Are we suggesting that the ancient Egyptians were getting like space travel tips from aliens?
It's definitely a bold claim, right? But before we write it off completely, there's another intriguing piece of the Saqqara puzzle, the Serapeum.
The Serapeum. Refresh my memory.
It's this underground complex discovered back in the 1850s that houses these massive, incredibly intricate granite sarcophagi.
Oh, yeah. Those things are huge, like way bigger than any normal coffin.
We're talking about each one weighing around 70 tons.
70 tons. That's heavier than a Boeing 737. How did they even move those things?
That's the crazy part. They were transported over 600 miles from Aswan. And the cuts, the precision, it's mind-boggling, even for engineers today.
It's almost like they were designed to hold something or someone truly extraordinary.
And here's the kicker. Most of them were found practically empty. Just a few animal bones here and there.
Seriously, all that effort for a few animal bones doesn't add up.
It's a mystery that's fueled all sorts of speculation. Were they meant to contain, powerful beings, as some believe? Or could they have served a completely different purpose? Maybe connected to some form of advanced technology that we can't even fathom.
Okay, now you're really piquing my curiosity. Advanced technology, like what? Are we talking about like ancient teleportation devices or something?
Well, we're not saying that's the definitive answer, but it's definitely something to consider. I mean, imagine the implications if the ancient Egyptians actually possessed technology that far surpassed anything we have today.
Yeah.
It would completely rewrite our understanding of history.
No kidding. But is there any evidence beyond these, giant SD boxes?
There is. And it takes us far away from Egypt to the Tanah Toraja people of Indonesia.
Indonesia. What do they have to do with ancient astronauts?
Well, they're known for these really unique burial practices. Dare I say, slightly space age.
Space age burial practices. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more.
They place their deceased in these, get this, boat-shaped coffins,
Boat
high up on cliffs, with wooden effigies, almost like little guardians, watching over the remains from balconies carved into the rock face.
Wow, that sounds intense. And you said boat-shaped coffins? Like
Okay.
spaceships?
They do kind of resemble spaceships, don't they? It's not just the shape of the coffins, though. It's the whole visual, the setting, those effigies. It's all very otherworldly.
I can see that. But what's the thinking behind these elaborate rituals?
Well, their belief is that the deceased are on this gradual journey to the stars, to a place where their ancestors originated.
So they literally believe their ancestors came from the stars. That's fascinating.
It is. And it makes you wonder if these are just, cultural expressions or if they echo something more literal. Maybe even a time when humanity had a closer, perhaps even assisted connection to the stars.
It's a question worth pondering for sure. But where do we go from here?
Let's travel to a place that predates even the pyramids, the ancient tomb of Newgrange in Ireland.
Older than the pyramids. Now that's old. What's so special about this Newgrange place?
Well, what's remarkable about it is its precise alignment with the winter solstice. On that specific day each year, a beam of sunlight, sometimes called a sun dagger, illuminates the inner chamber.
A sun dagger sounds dramatic.
It is, and that chamber, it's filled with all sorts of mysterious symbols. Now, for a structure built over 5,000 years ago, that's an incredible feat of engineering and astronomical knowledge.
No kidding. But what does it all mean? How does this alignment fit into the whole ancient astronaut theory?
Well, the theories suggest that it's not just about marking a solar event. It could symbolize the journey of the soul into the cosmos.
Like a cosmic send-off.
Exactly. And remember the Tantaraja with their, spaceships pointed towards the heavens. It's a similar concept. And it's not just the alignment that's interesting. A lot of burial mounds, including Newgrange, have this distinct spiral shape.
Spirals.
Think about galaxies, those swirling patterns of energy. It's a connection worth exploring, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It makes you wonder if these ancient cultures were trying to, like, mirror the cosmos in their architecture to create structures that reflected the very fabric of the universe. It's mind-boggling to think about the level of knowledge and sophistication that would have required.
Absolutely. But here's where things get even more interesting. What if this ancient desire to connect with the cosmos isn't just a thing of the past? What if it's still alive and well in our modern world?
Okay, I'm listening. What are you thinking?
Think about the growing trend of sending cremated remains into space.
Wait, people are actually sending their loved ones' ashes into space.
They are. And it's not just anyone doing this. We're talking about people like Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, and astronaut Gordon Cooper, individuals with a deep connection to the idea of space exploration.
So are we suggesting there's some kind of deep-seated human urge, maybe even an instinct, to return to the stars? An urge that echoes through millennia, from the builders of Newgrange to modern-day space enthusiasts.
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? But the connection between the ancient and the modern goes even deeper. Let's talk about the role of prophets, those figures throughout history who've acted as intermediaries between humanity and the divine, delivering messages that shaped entire civilizations.
Okay, prophets. Now we're getting into some serious territory here. Are we talking about, like, Moses, Jesus, Buddha, those kinds of figures?
Exactly. But what if the source of their messages wasn't entirely divine in the traditional sense? What if, and this is where the ancient astronaut theory gets really provocative, these prophets were in contact with extraterrestrial beings?
Whoa, hold on a second. Are we saying Moses was getting his instructions from aliens on Mount Sinai? That's a pretty radical idea.
It is, right. But let's look at some specific examples. Take the story of Moses and the burning bush. What if that wasn't a supernatural event, but rather an encounter with advanced technology, misinterpreted as a divine manifestation?
So instead of a bush bursting into flames, maybe it was some kind of alien device projecting light and sound, like a high-tech hologram, perhaps.
Maybe. And what about the pillar of cloud and fire that guided the Israelites through the desert? Could that have been a beacon from, say, a cylindrical UFO, maybe even a mothership leading them to the promised land?
Now that's an image, a mothership guiding the Israelites. It definitely puts a sci-fi twist on the biblical narrative, but there's more to the Moses story, right? What about his transformed appearance after his encounter on Mount Sinai?
Right, his face was said to be so radiant that he had to wear a veil. Could that have been evidence of a physical encounter with extraterrestrials?
Yeah.
Perhaps similar to what we see in modern accounts of alien abductions.
So we're drawing parallels between ancient prophets and modern-day alien abductees. That's pretty wild. But it's not just the Moses story, is it?
Not at all. Think about Elijah ascending to heaven in a fiery chariot, Ezekiel encountering a wheel within a wheel and those strange beings. Even the book of Enoch describing sky guardians, all of these could be interpreted through an extraterrestrial lens.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly separate stories, these ancient mysteries, could be connected by this thread of extraterrestrial contact. It's like piecing together a giant puzzle, with prophets, tombs, and strange lights in the sky all fitting into a bigger picture.
Exactly. And that leads us to a concept that might just blow your mind. The zero-point field.
Hold on, 0-point field. That sounds like something out of a physics textbook. What exactly is this thing?
It's a theoretical realm where all knowledge and information from the past, present, and future might be stored. Imagine it as a cosmic library containing everything that ever was and ever will be.
Okay, that's definitely mind-bending. But how does this connect to prophets and ancient aliens?
Think about Nostradamus, the 16th century prophet known for his eerily accurate predictions. Was he tapping into this zero-point field, or receiving information from another dimension?
Interesting. And then you have figures like Albert Einstein, whose wife claimed his favorite book was about psychic abilities and the hidden history of humanity.
Wait, Einstein was into psychic stuff? That's news to me.
It does make you wonder if certain individuals throughout history have had access to this cosmic knowledge, perhaps through a connection to extraterrestrial beings.
It's a question worth exploring as we delve further into the ancient astronaut theory, and we'll do just that when we return for part 2 of our deep dive. Welcome back, everyone. Last time we were wrapping our heads around this wild idea of the zero-point field, a cosmic library of everything, past, present, future, all that jazz.
And the big question is, how do you access all that knowledge? We were just getting into some really interesting possibilities.
Right. Could certain individuals throughout history, prophets, visionaries, even, geniuses like Einstein, could they have been tapping into this cosmic knowledge?
Possibly. But it begs the question, how?
Maybe with a little help from,
Yeah.
extraterrestrials.
That's a theory that raises more questions than answers. But it does lead us to a topic that often gets swept under the rug when we talk about ancient aliens.
Ooh, what's that?
Alien abductions.
Okay, now we're going deep into X-Files territory. Alien abductions. That's some serious stuff.
It is a subject that tends to elicit strong reactions, but, if we're really exploring the full spectrum of extraterrestrial contact, we can't just ignore it.
You're right. So where do we even begin to unpack this whole alien abduction phenomenon?
Well, let's start with a case that really brought it into the public consciousness, the Travis Walton case back in 1975.
Travis Walton. That name rings the bell.
A logger in Arizona vanishes for 5 days, reappears with a story about being taken aboard a UFO. It was a media sensation.
I vaguely remember hearing about that. But was it ever, proven or debunked?
Well, the authorities, of course, dismissed it as a hoax, but Walton and his coworkers, they all claim to have seen these strange lights in the sky right before he disappeared. And Walton, to this day, still maintains his story. He says he encountered these beings aboard their craft.
Wow. It's like a classic abduction narrative. So let's talk about those narratives, the abductions themselves. Are we talking about those, stereotypical images of medical experiments, probes, implanted memories, all that?
Actually, the experiences people report are much more varied than those pop culture tropes.
Really?
Yeah. Some do involve those disturbing physical procedures, yeah. But others describe telepathic communication, even sexual encounters. And this is where it gets even weirder.
Weirder than sexual encounters with aliens. Go on.
The creation of hybrid human-alien beings.
Whoa, hold on. Hybrid humans. Okay, now we're venturing into some serious sci-fi territory. But how does all this tie back to the ancient astronaut theory? Are we saying these modern-day abductions have ancient counterparts?
That's precisely what the theory proposes.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about the Book of Enoch, for example. It describes Enoch being taken up to the heavens in a fiery chariot. Or the prophet Ezekiel's encounter with the wheel within a wheel and those strange beings. Could these be descriptions of alien encounters interpreted through the lens of the time?
I see where you're going with this. And wasn't Muhammad's night journey to Jerusalem on the back of that winged creature, Buraq? Wasn't that also seen as a kind of ascent to the heavens?
It was, and these ancient accounts, often seen as religious visions or mystical experiences, they could be interpreted as encounters with extraterrestrial beings using advanced technology. Technology that, would have seemed miraculous, even divine to those who witnessed it.
So are we essentially suggesting that prophets might have been, for lack of a better term, abducted?
It's a possibility.
But why? What would be the purpose? Is there some kind of hidden agenda behind these abductions, ancient or modern?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are these abductions, if they're even happening, simply a form of observation, or is there something more complex at play?
Like what?
Genetic manipulation. A long-term plan for humanity that we can't even begin to comprehend.
That's a little creepy to think about.
It is a bit unnerving, but it's one of the possibilities the ancient astronaut theory forces us to consider.
Okay, so we've gone from the zero-point field to alien abductions.
Yeah.
But there's another piece of this whole ancient astronaut puzzle that I've always found fascinating.
What's that?
Those massive, intricate designs etched into the Earth. The Nazca Lines of Peru.
Ah, yes, Nazca Lines.
You can't see them from the ground, only from the air. It's almost like they were meant for an audience in the sky.
The Nazca Lines are truly one of the great mysteries of archaeology. These geoglyphs depicting animals, plants, geometric shapes, they stretch for miles across the desert. And to this day, no one can say for certain how or why they were created.
Right. So what's the mainstream explanation, and how does the ancient astronaut theory differ?
Well, mainstream archaeologists believe the Nazca Lines were created by the Nazca people sometime between the 1st and 8th centuries AD. Their theories usually focus on ceremonial purposes, maybe astronomical alignments or rituals related to water. The desert's a harsh environment.
But how could they have created these massive designs without being able to see them from above? That's where the ancient astronaut theory comes in, right?
Exactly. Ancient astronaut theorists propose that the Nazca Lines were created with the help, or perhaps even at the direction, of extraterrestrial beings.
So are we talking landing strips for spaceships or some kind of massive message board for our alien overlords?
Both theories have been put forward. And it's not hard to see why. The scale and precision of the Nazca Lines are just really hard to reconcile with our understanding of ancient technology. But beyond the how and why, there's another question that I think often gets overlooked. What impact did creating these massive geoglyphs have on the Nazca people themselves?
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the mystery of the lines themselves. But what about the people who made them? Was it a communal effort, a source of pride, or was it a burden, a demand from powerful forces, maybe even, extraterrestrial ones?
It's a question worth considering because, if the ancient astronaut theory is correct, then the impact of these encounters wouldn't have been limited to just technology or knowledge. It would have fundamentally shaped the cultures, beliefs, even the very identity of these ancient civilizations.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From the zero-point field to alien abductions to these enigmatic Nazca lines. Is there a common thread running through all of this?
There is. The ancient astronaut theory, at its core, is about challenging our assumptions.
In what way?
It asks us to consider the possibility that, well, we're not alone, that we might have been visited by extraterrestrial beings in the distant past, and that these encounters might have shaped our civilizations in ways we're only just beginning to understand.
It's a lot to wrap your head around. But it's also pretty exciting to think that our history might be far richer and maybe even stranger than we ever imagined. And who knows? Maybe those ancient astronauts left us a few more clues to uncover. Welcome back to the show, everyone. We've been on this wild ride exploring the idea that our ancient ancestors might have had some, well, let's say, extraterrestrial assistance.
We've covered some pretty mind-blowing stuff so far. Pyramids, prophets, alien abductions, those massive Nazca lines.
Right. But there's one more piece of this ancient astronaut puzzle that I think deserves a closer look.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. What do you...
These elongated skulls found in different parts of the world.
Ah, yes. Elongated skulls, those always spark debate.
They really do. And I gotta admit, those things look, well, different.
They certainly do.
What's the scientific consensus on them? Is it just some ancient cultural practice? Or is there something, more mysterious at play?
Well, most archaeologists and anthropologists believe that these elongated skulls are the result of artificial cranial deformation.
Artificial cranial what now?
It's a practice where basically the heads of infants were bound or shaped to achieve a specific look.
So like ancient beauty standards, similar to, foot binding practices in some cultures.
Exactly. It seems extreme to us, but for the cultures that practiced it, cranial deformation was a big deal. It was often associated with status, beauty, even spiritual significance.
Interesting. But I'm guessing the ancient astronaut theory has a different take on this.
You bet. They suggest these elongated skulls could be evidence of, wait for it, an extraterrestrial presence.
Okay, now we're talking extraterrestrials. So are they saying these skulls belong to aliens?
Some do, but a more common interpretation is that they represent a hybrid human-alien race.
Hybrid human aliens. Now that's something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But is there any, actual evidence to support that idea?
Well, proponents of the ancient astronaut theory point to a couple of things. First, some of these skulls have a cranial capacity significantly larger than a normal human skull.
So bigger brains?
Yeah. And second, their features are, well, let's just say unusual. They often lack a sagittal suture, which is a fibrous joint that runs along the top of the skull in, typical humans.
Huh. So it's not just a matter of shaping the skull. We're talking about fundamental differences in the actual bone structure.
Exactly.
Okay. But let's say, for argument's sake, that these skulls do represent a hybrid species. How does that fit into the whole ancient astronaut narrative? Why create a hybrid in the first place?
That's a question that's sparked a lot of speculation. Some theorists believe these hybrids might have been created to serve as intermediaries between humans and extraterrestrials, possessing knowledge and abilities beyond those of ordinary
Like
humans.
go-betweens, alien ambassadors to Earth.
Right. Others suggest they were part of some kind of genetic experiment, maybe an attempt to upgrade human DNA or to create a more advanced species.
Right. Wow, that's a lot to process. It's fascinating to think that our evolutionary history might be far more complex and intertwined with extraterrestrial influence than we ever imagined. But it also raises some, well, ethical questions, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
The idea of ancient genetic manipulation by extraterrestrial beings, it raises questions about consent, about agency, about the very nature of what it means to be human. The conversation we definitely need to have as we continue to explore these possibilities.
So where do we go from here? We've explored tombs and prophets, potential abductions, mysterious symbols etched into the earth, and now these elongated skulls. Is there a single thread that connects all of this?
I think the connecting thread is curiosity.
Curiosity.
Yeah, the ancient astronaut theory, at its core, it's really an invitation to question, to wonder, to explore the boundaries of what we think we know about our past.
It's a good reminder that we're still piecing together the story of humanity, and that there are probably a lot of chapters left to be written. And who knows? Maybe those missing chapters hold the answers to some of our most fundamental questions, right? Where do we come from? Are we alone? And what's our place in this vast universe?
Maybe those answers are hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to connect the dots, decode the symbols, listen to those ancient whispers that hint at something beyond our current understanding.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. We've journeyed through tombs and temples, pondered ancient texts, and faced the possibility of extraterrestrial encounters. Whether you believe in ancient astronauts or not, one thing's for sure. The ancient world was a place of wonder, mystery, and incredible human achievement. And as we continue to explore our planet and our place in the universe, who knows what other secrets we'll uncover. So, keep an open mind, keep asking questions, and maybe, just maybe, we'll discover that the truth really is out there. Thanks for listening.